Sport on Prime Time. Now here's a story that proves that dreams do come true. It's the story of David Perel, who's gone from the Western Province Karting Championship to racing professionally for Ferrari. It's a great story to tell. And for more, we're joined by the GT racer, David Perel, from our Cape Town studios. David, welcome to the show. It's quite a whirlwind for you. Take us through it, because it was a last gasp throw of the dice that got you into Europe just to tick off something on your bucket list.
I stopped racing when I was 23 after I ran out of money for karts, and then worked with my brother on our business to save as much money as possible. It took me about 6 or 7 years to do that and give it one more shot in Italy.
And then you got to Italy and suddenly you found yourself racing for a team that races Lamborghinis. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so I headed off to Italy. I was cold calling as many teams as I could, and eventually got hold of a team in Italy which was racing for a whole bunch of Lamborghinis. So I raced with them, and one of my engineers at the time was working for a bigger Lamborghini team. The result of that led me to an offer for the 2015 season, and I raced in the Italian GT Championship for Lamborghini, which I almost won. We finished second, and the only reason we lost was because of a puncture and a exploding brake disc.
Right, so by all accounts, you dominated, making a name for yourself in Italy. And of course, then the prince of all cars, Ferrari, came a-knocking, and you couldn't resist that, could you?
Yeah, so this year the plan was actually to continue with Lamborghini. However, sort of in April, I got an email from Ferrari inviting me to a test in Italy, where I went and was compared against one of their top drivers. On the first day, I managed to match that driver, and the second day I was quicker. That led to a 3-year deal with the team I'm racing for now, which is Kessel Ferrari, in the Blancpain Endurance Series, which is sort of like the biggest GT racing series in the world.
It must be a little bit surreal to know that you're one of Ferrari's drivers. Not a lot of people can say that in the world, can they?
No, not at all. It's a huge honor, and it's not something that I expected. I was sitting on my couch in the middle of 2014 watching Le Mans, and I thought to myself, I can do this, but I never actually thought that I'd be where I am now, representing such a big brand in the world, and actually we're doing quite well in the championship, so it's been a proud moment for me, absolutely.
Explain what it's like to be a driver for Ferrari. What do you go through on a daily basis?
I still run a business in South Africa with my brother. So most of my day when I'm in South Africa is spent working on the web. However, when I'm overseas, there's a lot of training that goes on, a lot of preparation, studying new racetracks, because every racetrack that we're racing at this year is new for me. So that involves things like visiting Google Maps and making notes of every track, doing simulator work using either PlayStation or PC, and spending a lot of time with my engineer and the team itself. I just got back from Europe now. I was on a 2-week trip, and I was traveling around Europe with my mechanics actually, and helping them unpack the track just to get to know them better and learn a bit of Italian.
And you're going to some of the most famous racetracks in Europe that are household names, and also that have been used consistently for, on Le Mans, and, just the really venerable places to go for racing.
Yeah, I've raced at tracks like Monza, Imola, Spa, Silverstone, Paul Ricard recently. And I promise you, every single one of these tracks is something unique. When you know that you're racing on tracks which Formula One cars race on too, it's quite special. Specifically tracks like Monza, which have so much history, and Spa, which I was recently at a test. Those places have something about them which is just so unique and challenging in comparison to, I'd say, non-Formula One tracks, which I've raced at previously.
When you're racing at Monza, for instance, do you feel a little bit of extra pressure from your bosses?
Absolutely. Each team that races with Ferrari has a Ferrari engineer and a representative who watches the race and makes notes of every single session, every single comment that you make to your engineers, and then they transfer that over to the big boys at the factory. So you constantly analyze. There's no chance to let up. The pressure is consistently on.
Do you have a favorite racetrack, David?
Yes, it's actually not one of the Formula One tracks. It's a track in Italy which I raced at last year called Mugello. I've had a lot of success there. It's very similar to Spa, which has really fast corners, a lot of gradient. But for some reason, I just enjoy it slightly more. Everyone talks about how amazing Spa is, which it is. But for me, Mugello still takes the cake.
And these are the old school racing tracks in Europe. They're not up to spec safety-wise. They're not like the sanitized, some of the tracks we see on F1. How terrifying is it to be racing on some of the, like Spa, for instance?
To be honest, it really is heart and mouth. I raced 3 weeks ago in France at a track called Paul Ricard, and that's just got tar runoffs. The walls are miles away. It really is like a video game. And then a week and a half after that, I went to Spa to do a test, and the walls are much closer. You're doing much higher speeds. There's a famous corner at Spa called Eau Rouge, and through there we're doing over 200 kilometers an hour. We just lift the throttle, and the thing is, if you have a moment through there where if you lose control of the car, you will ride off the car. You're going to get injured. It's not going to be comfortable.
Right, so that's the European motor culture, and it runs deep in the veins of the continent. Is there any chance that we can perpetuate that kind of stuff here in South Africa?
The series I race for, I read recently that they have a plan to bring one of the events to our country, possibly Kyalami in 2018. That's unconfirmed though. I read that on their news site, and I'm hoping that it comes true, because it would be a massive honor for me to race for Ferrari in front of a home crowd. It would be really special.
Well, David, you've piqued our interest now. Explain to us, where can people watch some of your races?
So there's two places. The one is my site, which I always keep up to date. That's davidperel.net. And the other one is actually on YouTube. All our races are streamed live. The next one is the Spa 24-hour race. And that will be streamed, the entire race will be streamed live on YouTube, which is youtube.com/GT World.
David Perel, thank you very much for joining us, and best of luck with all your endeavors.